Good morning, students. We were discussing about the applications of Bernoulli's principle. We learned speed of reflex. Then we have learned venturimeter and the applications of venturimeter. Okay. The applications of venturimeter we have learned carburetor, and then we have learned the examples of venturimeter principle, the devices which work on the venturimeter principle, like filter pumps, atomizers, aspirators, sprayers, the sprayers which are used for spraying the perfumes, or the sprayers which are used for spraying the insecticides. They work on the same principle. Let us see an example of a sprayer. It is a spray gun. It consists of a piston chamber which is having a wide diameter here, and it is fitted with a small nozzle. Okay, when the piston is pushed inwards, this is the handle which is connected with the piston rod, and this is the piston valve. When we push this piston forces the air to rush through. When the air rushes through, here, the air rushes through this small nozzle. When the air rushes through small nozzle, the area of cross section here reduces. As a result, the speed with which the air rushes will be very high. When the speed rushes with a very high speed, when the air rushes with high speed, suppose this is V2 and this is V1 here, then what happens? Obviously, the pressure falls. There is a drop in pressure. Pressure P2. If here the pressure is P1, suppose it is pushed inwards like this. When it is pushed inwards, then what happens? The air rushes with high speed, and the air rushes with high speed, there is a drop in pressure. When there is a drop in pressure, obviously what happens? This drop in pressure causes the pressure of this liquid to raise this liquid up, and this liquid comes in contact with the air. Air with the liquid is sprayed here. It is sprayed. That's how the sprayer works. So there is a drop in pressure. So this drop in pressure P2 will be less than the P1 here. That is liquid pressure. That is filled in this container, right? As a result, this pressure which is acting on this, if it is atmospheric pressure, this pressure P1 will be greater than P2. As a result, this will be the same air pressure can be taken here, P1. So that's how the spray will be observed. So this is one example of spray gun. The piston forces the air to move with high speed, causing lowering of pressure. When there is a lowering of pressure in this nozzle, obviously the liquid rises, and the liquid mixed with the air is sprayed in the forms of droplets. This is how the spray guns which are used in the perfume sprayers or the sprayers which are used for insecticides are working. Okay, so this is about the principle of venturimeter. That is nothing but Bernoulli's principle. Now we are going to learn very interesting thing, that is the dynamic lift. What is the dynamic lift? Okay. It's quite common experience for all of you when you are playing football. When you kick the football in the air, the football is supposed to go in the parabolic path, but sometimes you see the ball deviates. You want to hit the ball towards the goal post, but the ball deviates and goes in the corner. So this is explained based on application of Bernoulli's principle called as dynamic lift. What is that dynamic lift? That is the upward thrust that is exerted on an object due to pressure difference is called dynamic lift. The force that acts on airplane wing, hydrofoil or a spinning ball that is moving through a fluid is called dynamic lift. The force that acts on an airplane wing, hydrofoil or spinning ball by the virtue of its motion, through a fluid is called dynamic lift. So this dynamic lift leads to deviation of moving ball in the air. So it's quite common in cricket, moving cricket ball. Motion of cricket ball, basketball, football, that is, whenever there is a spin in the ball, then this deviation is observed. Golf ball, etc. In all these cases, spin motion, this is actually spinning motion of a cricket ball, basketball, football, golf ball, etc. in the air. Undergoes deviation. Undergoes deviation in its path from parabolic path. Due to dynamic lift. In cricket ball, we call it as reverse swing in the ball, in the air itself. Before it reaches the batsman and the bowler bowls the spin ball with a spin, then the ball undergoes swing in the air itself. It is also called as reverse swing. The same way, it's quite common in football. You call it as banana kick. So ball undergoes deviation in the air. It's also quite common for golf ball. The golf ball surface is totally rough. Golf ball surface, I don't know whether you have seen or not. It's a small ball, but it's quite heavy. The upper surface of the golf ball is totally dented. It's having number of dents. It's a quite rough surface. So when it is hit in the air, it doesn't undergo parabolic path, perfect parabolic path. Along with the parabolic path, it undergoes deviation. So this deviation is explained by the effect called as dynamic lift. The force that acts on an airplane wing, hydrofoil or spinning ball by the virtue of the motion of the ball through fluid. Especially in these cases, the fluid is air. When the motion of spinning ball takes place in the air, it undergoes deviation from the parabolic path. That is called as dynamic lift. First we will learn the dynamic lift that takes place in the spinning ball. Let us look at the ball which is in motion. Suppose this is a ball which is bowled without any spin. If the ball is bowled without any spin, the ball goes through the streamlines of air. The streamlines of air. The streamlines of air will be in the opposite direction of motion of the ball. When the ball doesn't undergo any spin, the streamlines which are moving above the surface of the ball and below the surface of the ball, they move with the same speed. So speed doesn't differ here. So the relative speed will be 0. I mean the speed which are reaching here on the other side will be same. So there will be no difference in the speed. So when there is no difference in the speed, pressure difference is 0. When there is no pressure difference, the ball doesn't undergo any deviation. So this moving ball without spin doesn't have no deviation. It will not have any deviation. It will not have any deviation. Now look at the ball which is moving in this direction with the spin. It is undergoing spin. This is the same ball which is undergoing spin. And suppose the surface of the ball is rough, old ball, rough surface. Then what happens? The air streamlines which are moving above the surface of the ball, and look at the air streamlines which are moving below the surface of the ball. We have to look at their speeds. The relative velocity of the air streamlines above the surface of the ball with respect to ball will be greater than the relative speed of the air streamlines below the surface of the ball with respect to ball. This V2, if it is V2 and if this is V1, then you will find the more crowding of the streamlines above the surface of the ball. More crowding of the streamlines is because of the fact that the speed of the air streamlines with respect to the motion of the ball will be greater. If you calculate the relative speed with respect to motion of the ball will be greater. And in the same way, relative speed of the streamlines below the surface of the ball, with respect to the ball will be lower. So that causes difference in speed. V2 becomes greater than V1. When V2 becomes greater than V1, you can see there the pressure here, if it is P2, and pressure below here, if it is P1, there is a drop in pressure. Since the air is blown with high speed, there is a drop in pressure. As a result, the ball will be undergoing an upward lift. This upward lift acting on the moving ball causes the deviation in the ball. The ball will not go in the same straight line, it will undergo deviation. It will have a resultant motion. As a result, the ball undergoes deviation. This is due to the dynamic lift, and dynamic lift acting on the spinning ball is called Magnus effect. It is called as Magnus effect. You can note down the Magnus effect is the dynamic lift acting on the spinning ball. Dynamic lift on the spinning ball is called Magnus effect. You must have observed in the T20 matches recently concluded, IPL matches, the slow motion of the ball must have been observed in the replays. The ball, before touching the ground, undergoes deviation in the air. The batsman will be totally confused, and it is also called as reverse swing. So that will happen when the ball is little rough. The surface of the ball is little rough. So bowlers, you must have seen, they will be rubbing the ball with the help of towel, with the help of their trousers. They rub the ball vigorously so that the ball can undergo the swing. That swing before it, that swing which undergoes before it touches the ground surface is due to Magnus effect. That is called the Magnus effect. And the dynamic lift that is taking place in the spinning ball is specially called as Magnus effect. This is a quite common even in the football that we have all enjoyed, even in the basketball also, golf ball also. Golf ball is small in size. You can very easily see the deviation in the path. Okay, so that is called Magnus effect. Now the next one is the dynamic lift of an airplane wing. If you have observed the airplane wing, the airplane wings are having special shape. This is the front surface and this is the back surface. The front surface is little blunt and the end surface here is little tapered. It is little sharp. So when the airplane runs on the runway, on the road, when the aeroplane runs on the road with a very high speed, then what happens? This is the type of streamlines of the air. The streamlines of the air will be moving back. So the streamlines which are moving on the curved surface, the streamlines of the air moving on the curved surface move faster than the streamlines which move below the surface. Below the surface it is flat. The below surface is totally flat. So the speed of air streamlines below the surface will be lower than the speed of the streamlines moving on the surface because of this shape. You can see more crowding of streamlines. More the crowding of streamlines, more is the speed. When there is a more speed, then you will find drop in pressure. So if P2 is the pressure and P1 is the pressure below, then P1 will be greater than P2. P2 reduces. When the air is blown with a very high speed, naturally what happens? Pressure on top of this airplane wing reduces than the pressure at the bottom. So that causes an uplift, an upward lift, and thus the entire airplane will be lifted up and we will have a lift. It will have a airplane lift, and that airplane lift will be totally balancing the entire plane. It will be totally balancing the entire aircraft. That will happen when it is taking just when it is running over the runway and takes the lift, right? So the lift is called as dynamic lift. The dynamic lift is because of the fact that there is a pressure difference. This pressure difference P2 minus P1 causes an upward thrust. That upward thrust leads to taking off of the plane. This is how we explain airplane wing lift. Airplane wing lift. This is the dynamic lift on the airplane wing. Okay. So these are all the applications of Bernoulli's principle, which is very beautifully explained with the help of streamlines and drop-in pressure. Okay. This difference in pressure can be very well explained with the help of a simple demonstration. Take a paper. I think I might have explained when you were in 9th standard or 10th standard, I don't know. Just take a small piece of paper and hold it like this. Okay? Then blow the air on the top of this surface. As long as you are blowing the air, suddenly the paper is lifted up. You can see once again. So this is what happens on the airplane wing. This is the streamlined shape of the airplane wing. The front surface is blunt. Okay. So when the air blows on the surface, when the airplane is running on the runway on the road, the air which is moving on the blunt surface, third surface of the airplane wing moves with a higher speed. The air that is reaching here from this curved surface takes the same time as the air that reaches here. So it covers longer distance than the straight line path. As a result, the air moving on the top of the curved surface is having more speed than the air which is moving below. As a result, there is a difference in pressure. So pressure P2 on the top falls, drops. Pressure P2 becomes less than P1. When P2 becomes less than P1, it will get an upward lift. That's how entire aeroplane will be lifted up, and as it takes the lift, it will be totally balanced. You can just see once again. When I blow the air is blown off. When the air is blown off, then what happens? Pressure on the surface of this paper reduces. That will lead to high pressure at the bottom surface, and that will be able to lift this paper. This is how one can demonstrate the dynamic lift of the airplane wing. Okay, now we shall discuss the very important property which is exerted between the layers of fluid particles. That is what we call as viscosity. Most of the fluids that we observe are not ideal fluids. There will be some resistance to the flow, opposition to the flow. It is just like an internal friction acting between the fluid layers when the fluid is in motion. Just like the solid surface, when it tries to move or when it runs over a surface, the solid surface experiences a friction. In the same way, when the fluid is in motion, the fluid experiences an internal resistance to its motion, an internal frictional kind of force to the motion of the fluids. That is called as viscosity. It's our common experience that liquids like water, petrol, diesel, kerosene, we say them as thin liquids because they flow very fast. The petrol, diesel, kerosene, they move faster than water. It's our common experience. They move faster than water. Whereas other liquids like oil, milk, blood, they are thick liquids. They move little bit slower than water. So thick liquid, thin liquid, we call it in the common terms. Actually, they should be called in terms of their viscosity. The liquids which flow very slowly are more viscous liquids. The liquids which flow very fast, to our common experience, are less viscous liquids. You can have an activity. You take 3 tumblers or 3 beakers, take water in one beaker, then milk in another beaker, then oil in one more beaker. Okay? Water can be stirred very fast, very easily. For that matter, you can take one more beaker wherein you can fill it with kerosene. One beaker with kerosene, another small beaker with water, one more with milk, and another with oil, like coconut oil. You can very easily stir kerosene. When you stir kerosene, it moves very fast. Similarly, when you stir water, it also moves fast. But compared to kerosene, water moves little slow. So water is thicker than kerosene. Then when you stir milk, milk appears to be little more resistive than water. So milk is more thicker than water. Then when you stir the oil turns very slowly. Oil is more thick than milk. So here the oil is more viscous than milk. Milk is more viscous than water. Water is more viscous than kerosene. Right? If you take honey, honey will be quite very thick. It's not possible to stir it. It is very slow. It stirs very slow. Similarly, coal tar, if you take, coal tar doesn't get stirred at all. Coal tar, grease is totally waxy, cannot be turned. very slow in motion. So the property of resistance, internal resistance to the flow of the fluid layers themselves is called as viscous force, and this property is called as viscosity. So we can define what is viscous force and viscosity. The force of resistance to the flow of we can write force of internal resistance. Or force of opposition, force of internal resistance to the flow of the fluid. Fluid layers, when there is a relative motion between the layers themselves. When there is a relative motion between the layers of fluid. One more than another. Is called viscous force. This property of internal resistance, the flow of fluids is called viscosity. It is called as viscosity. So to our common experience, kerosene, water, alcohol, petrol or thin liquid, they are less viscous. Whereas oil, grease, then honey, coal tar, right, etc. are thick liquids. They are highly viscous. The one which can flow very fast, we can call them as less viscous liquids. Okay. Consider we have taken two glass plates. Okay. On one glass plate, we have taken a liquid, some thick liquid. Okay, we have taken a kind of liquid like oil on the surface of this glass plate. On top of it, we have placed one more thin glass plate. This is a magnified view. Okay. Now, keeping the bottom glass plate fixed, just apply a force tangentially to the upper plate only. Just go on sliding the upper plate. then you will observe that the layer of this liquid which is in contact with the upper surface moves with whatever the speed the upper plate moves. Think that the upper plate is given a speed, velocity v. Suppose the upper plate is moved with velocity v with respect to lower plate which is at rest. Which is at rest means it is not set into motion, it is kept fixed. Then the liquid which is there in contact with this glass surface also moves with the same speed, that is v, with same speed as that of the glass plate, because there is a contact between the liquid surface with the solid surface, so that will have a maximum resistance. As a result, the upper layer will be moving with the same speed as that of the glass surface. Then, if you divide this entire into some 3-4 layers, suppose I am just considering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. Then the upper surface, the layer which is in contact with this one, will be almost moving with the same speed as that of this one. Then followed by the next layer. The next layer will be moving a little slower than the upper layer because of internal kind of friction, what we call it as viscosity. Then the third layer will be still moving slower than the speed of the second layer because of, again, between there is a tendency of these layers moving one over the other. So when there is a relative motion of these fluid layers one over the other, there is a internal resistance to the flow. That is what we call as viscous force. Due to that viscous force, the upper layer moves with maximum speed, that is that of the glass which is in immediate contact with this, with velocity v. The lower one will be little less than v, and the second lower one will be still lesser than the above one, and the fourth layer will be still moving lower than the above layer, and the last layer which is in contact with the glass will not move at all, because it is in contact with the glass. It will have a maximum resistivity and it will have maximum resistance. That is what we call it as maximum viscosity with respect to the fixed glass plate. It will move with zero velocity. So this surface will have zero velocity, and as you move from the bottom to the top surface, you will find that there is increasing velocity. So this increasing velocity can be represented with a velocity profile, which I am going to show you here. So this I can show you here itself. This will be moving with maximum velocity v, then followed by little lesser velocity, second one, followed by third one with still lesser velocity, fourth one still lesser velocity, and fifth one almost zero. That's how we will be able to see the velocity profile. So I can draw the velocity profile here. Layer by layer. This is called as velocity profile. Velocity profile. Suppose consider now a fluid is flowing, a liquid is flowing through a horizontal pipe, horizontal cylindrical pipe. You have to imagine the three-dimensional picture now, three-dimensional view. The liquid, let us suppose water is flowing through a horizontal pipe. Then the water layer which is in contact with this cylindrical surface of the pipe will be almost at rest. Then followed by the layers which will be moving little greater speed. The water which is moving along, the layer of water which is moving along the axis of this cylinder will be having maximum speed. So if I divide this into different layers, one layer, the velocity profile will be interesting. The layer which is moving along the axial line of the cylindrical pipe will move with the maximum velocity. It will have a maximum velocity, followed by the next layer. The next layer is moving with little lesser velocity. Followed by the next layer, which is almost in contact with the surface, will be moving with slowest speed. So in the same way, I can show even for this layer also. So, if you draw separately the velocity profile for flow in flow of liquid in cylindrical pipe. Then the profile can be very beautifully drawn like this. You can have this kind of velocity profile. This is the case in case of flow of liquid like water flowing through cylindrical pipe. So such kind of flow having the velocity differences is called as laminar flow. This is called as laminar flow. This is no doubt steady flow. This is no doubt steady flow, but here the flow of liquids is taking place layer by layer, and you will find there is a velocity gradient as you move from the bottom of contact to the upper surface. You will find the increasing velocity. So it is called as velocity gradient. Velocity gradient. What do you mean by velocity gradient? Increase in velocity per unit distance, per unit length or per unit distance as we move from bottom to top. This is called velocity gradient. Here also you can see there is a velocity gradient from the cylindrical surface to the axial cylindrical surface to the cylindrical axis. As you observe, you see as you move from the cylindrical surface to the cylindrical axis, there is again increasing velocity. There is again increasing velocity from the cylindrical bottom surface to the cylindrical axis up to here. Again same thing can be seen here. There is increasing velocity. So from the cylindrical surface to the cylindrical axis, if you observe, there is increasing velocity. So this increasing velocity of the fluid layers per unit distance is called as velocity gradient. This velocity gradient is observed because of the fact that there exists a viscosity, there exists a force which opposes the internal motion of the fluid layers which are moving one over the another, which opposes the relative motion of fluid layers which are moving one over the other. That is called as viscous force, and this property of the liquids is called as viscosity. Okay, now you have learned another kind of flow that is called as laminar flow. Laminar flow is flow of the liquid in a container layer by layer. Flow of the liquid in a container layer by layer is called as laminar flow. Even for example, if you consider flow of river, suppose this is the bottom of river, bottom surface of river, the upper surface of the river. Upper surface of the river, right? The layer of water, if you just divide this into different layers, these are the layers of water ranging from the base of river, So the water which is in contact with the bottom of the river hardly moves. It moves with very slow speed, followed by the layer which is on top of it, which moves with still greater speed, followed by the layer of water which is on still top of it with still greater speed. So the arrow mark which I am showing, they are the magnitudes of velocities of the liquid layers, and the top surface moves with maximum speed. So when you observe the layers of water from the top surface to the bottom, there is a decrease in velocity as you move down from top surface of water, in the case of river, to the bottom surface. Then you will find there is a decrease in velocity as you move from layer to layer. This decrease in velocity per unit distance from top surface to the bottom surface is called as velocity gradient. Decrease in velocity with respect to time or increase in velocity with respect to time, we have called it as acceleration. Here it is called as velocity gradient. That is, decrease in velocity with respect to distance as you move from layer to layer to the bottom is called as velocity gradient. In the opposite way, as you move from bottom to the surface, there is increase in velocity with respect to distance. It is called as positive velocity gradient. When you move from top to bottom, it is negative velocity gradient. Okay. With these things in our mind, in the next video we will learn the coefficient of viscosity. It's a very simple property. Coefficient of viscosity, how is it defined and what is its SI unit and all, and we will solve some simple problems based on coefficient of viscosity. So this is another kind of laminar flow in case of flowing river water, where we will observe the streamline flow. Again it is a streamline flow, but because of viscosity, there is a gradient in the velocity. There is a change in velocity. Okay. Thank you. Have a nice day.